In this class, our focus is still on communicating in business, and two topics will be shared with you, which is the effective and ineffective communication, and also the communication patterns. For communication patterns, we will share with you one theory and also discuss about the patterns from this theory. So let's begin with the discussion of effective and ineffective communication. Effective communication is very important to any organization, especially if an organization would like to look for the effectiveness, and it depends to a large extent on the effectiveness of communication by its management and employees. So there are different types of attributes of effective communication. So let's see, what are they? Effective communication involves ensuring that the right person receives the right information at the right time. So we have three rights here: right person, right information, and right time. So what is the effective communication? You have the right person to receive the right information at the right time. And it is very essential for the organization to ensure the following. First, instructions, rules, and procedures are properly understood by all employees. So it's very clear for each employee understand about the rules and procedures and also the instructions of the companies. And a lot of companies will issue or distribute the employee handbook to ensure all employees are well understood about the rules and procedures. And once the employee receives the employee handbook, they have to sign a receipt and return back to the company as a record. And next, individuals know what is expected of them. So in an organization, each individual must be told their requirements or what are expected from them. Sometimes the communication may be through the so-called job description, or what we call JD, or the supervisor has to tell the employee about all the individuals about what is expected from them. And also there is a better coordination between individuals, groups, and departments within an organization to ensure effective communication. And the fourth element here is it is easier for managers to plan and control operations more efficiently. So effective communication can help to ensure the operations getting more efficient and even more effective. And next, forming, swapping, and testing of ideas is encouraged, improving innovation. So effective communication, one of the elements that the effective communication can help is to ensure innovation or improving innovation. And the last one here for effective communication can help is to increase trust and reduce conflict within the organization. In other words, the employees within an organization, if they just work alone, no trust, it is not effective because there may be conflicts or disagreements between the employees. So effective communication can help to improve the trust within the group, and it helps to reduce the conflict or disagreement within them. So what we see or what we saw here is the advantages of effective communication. And what are the attributes of effective communication? We have 6 attributes, which are timely, accurate and complete, relevant, direct to the right people, understandable, and cost-effective. So we remembered effective communication ensures there are in an organization ensure the right people or right person receive the right information at right time. So first we would like to go through the timely. The speed of communication must be linked to the urgency of the issue being communicated. One example here I showed you is a report that a machine is out of action is of little use if it is delayed for hours or days, as it will increase the amount of production time lost. So in other words, the communication of the breakdown of a machine must be timely. First of all, the communication should not be delayed. Another example is train service. The train service is affected by some incident should be communicated as soon as possible because it helps the stakeholders, including the passengers, the train service provider, and any other parties, maybe even for the police, to manage any breakdown of transportation services. If it is delayed, say for hours or days, then it will increase a lot of unnecessary wastage of time or resources in the society. And another attribute is accurate and complete. And any information in the communication should be factually correct, and all relevant facts should be stated to avoid wrong conclusions being drawn. So, if the information is not accurate or incomplete, there will be an opportunity to have the wrong conclusions based on the wrong information or false information. So accurate and complete is another very key attribute of effective communication we discussed. The third attribute for effective communication is relevance. Imagine if the message it contains a lot of information, what we call the excessive in volume. Then what's the consequence of the excessive volume of in the messages? Then it will overload the receiver. In other words, the message is not clear, and the receiver, he or she doesn't know how to react by receiving the message. So relevance is another key attribute for effective communication, and direct to the right people. So in our definition, for effective communication include the right persons involved. So it means that the care must be taken not to send information to wrong people. This could cause confusion or even loss of confidentiality of sensitive information. One example is, say, when a company conducting a business and it would like to acquire one of its competitors, but the information was shared wrongly to another competitor, which is not the target for acquisition, then this confidential information or sensitive information will have significant impact on these transactions. So confidentiality means the information should be shared to only the right person or right people instead of to all general public. And the effective communication, another attribute is understandable. Care must be taken with the representation of the information so that all recipients will be able to comprehend its meaning. So in other words, the message sent in email, included in an email, say it's the company messages to all employees, then all employees has to understand of the message. And suppose there's no special jargons or technical terms in such announcement or messages from the corporate or from the company to all employees, because the employee or the staff may be from finance department, HR department, marketing department, sales department. So avoid to use finance jargon or very technical jargon like from the R&D departments in the message. to make sure all recipients understand. And another attribute of effective communication is cost-effective. As far as possible, the communication must be achieved at a reasonable cost to the organization. In other words, the communication should not spend a lot of money to do it. So we see what attributes about the effective communication that we just went through. Next is about the barriers to effective communication. So let's see what are the obstacles or barriers here to effective communication. A barrier to communication is anything that stops information from. So in other words, the barrier has stopped the information by circulating. So like for the first one is getting to its intended recipients. Next, being understood by the recipients and or being acted on in the manner intended. So in other words, the barrier of communication is a way to change to say, for example, the recipients of the message, like email. If a virus attack an email system and the email sent to the related to the parties that intended to send are not doing their job, they sent to another person's, so it is a barrier. Another case is like the message in an email, even they sent to the right person, but the wording inside the email was amended by software, by email software, then it is also a barrier about communication. And the final point here is being acted on in the manner intended. That means the message in the email, for example, as I said, is not very easy to be understood. Then it is it is a challenge for the recipients to act what the sender would like the recipient wants to do. So let's see what are the typical communication barriers here. First, status difference. And for the receiver and sender, they are different in status within an organization. Then it means more junior members of staff can be reluctant to pass the information upwards for fear of criticism. It is very obvious in a very big organization. They have a lot of layers of management within the organization. Then, because of the status difference, it is quite hard for the very junior staff to send a message or send a message to the very senior member in the organization, because they would like to avoid for any criticism from the senior management. Another barrier is about the language. Language differences or the use of technical or professional jargon can prevent understanding of communications. So one of the key weaknesses for many accountants shared by the public is the accountant use a lot of technical jargons to explain the business to those who don't know about accounting. Then it is not effective, because you have 1 hour meeting you have 1 hour meeting with your customer, but you spend a lot of time in sharing with your views with the jargons or technical terms, accounting technical terms. Then the customer, they don't know of what is in the meeting. Say, for example, like the business. So it is preferred for an accountant or the CFO, for example, to interpret the financial numbers in a business way. That means they should use the language that everybody knows to avoid the very technical jargon. And the third barrier here is conflict between individuals within the organization may lead to communication being limited or withdrawn between them. So conflict is another challenge to the effective communication, especially within different individuals. And overload, as we said, if the information are too heavy, too much, then once too much information is communicated at one time, the receiver may become overwhelmed and fail to understand what is expected of them. So as we shared the example before, it is quite obvious the overload will result in ineffective communication. And the fifth barriers here we discussed is about the distance. Distance between communicators can be a problem. Typically, individuals will respond more promptly to those nearby. Especially in the old days, the internet or the real-time communication through different software systems is not popular, then the distance is very important. If it is far away, between two persons, maybe one in Asia, the other one is in Europe, then the distance will cause issue. And the last barrier that we discussed is about personal differences. Personal differences between the receiver and sender, such as age, education, or priorities, may mean that they interpret the information in different ways, causing confusion. So it means that the generation gap between the receiver and sender can be a problem to the effective communication. So we just share different types of typical communication barriers and what are the consequences of ineffective communication. First, if the organization fails to deal with barriers to communication, its internal and external communications may become significantly less useful. So it is quite easy to understand for any organization with poor communication, or what we call ineffective communication here. The consequences of ineffective communication can be divided into three types. The first is from the lack of downward communication. Examples include poor awareness of corporate objectives at lower management levels, and poor understanding of working instructions and responsibilities. Because there's no strong or even lack of downward communication from the top management to the junior staff. So for the junior staff, they don't understand well about the corporate objectives, and also they don't understand fully of the working instructions and responsibilities. So the consequences of the lack of downward communication will result in the expectation gap between the senior management and the junior staff. The junior staff think they are working very hard. However, the senior management doesn't think the junior staff can perform what they want to do. So improving downward communication can help to minimize the expectation gap between the senior management and the junior staff, as well as to improve the junior managers' morale, because they can help to achieve the company goal by understanding the corporate objectives. And the second type of consequences of ineffective communication is lack of upward communication. Examples include early warning of trouble areas is not received, participation of subordinates is limited, control becomes difficult, introduction of change is difficult. It is especially important for large organizations to have effective upward communication, because the senior management should know what are the junior staff expected, or even what the junior staff they want. And the big organization or the large organization needs the participation of subordinates. It helps to improve the overall productivity of any large organizations. And it also helps to have the control in the organization, because the senior management right now, they've got the information from the junior level of staff. They know what the control should be done for them. And last but not the least, here we talk about change. And if a company would like to go through a change process, upward communication is a must, because during the change, or even before the change, adequate feedback from the junior staff should receive in order to prevent any unhappy cases when the change is going through. And the third consequence of ineffective communication is lack of natural communications. Examples include divisions in management teams, lack of coordination, with rivalry between sections and departments, lack of advice and involvement by staff specialists. So in this case, natural communication can help different departments to work well with each other and to coordinate. Like logistics department, they need to work well with the sales department as well as with the finance department in order to ensure the operations is effective. And here we have the illustration on communication in the workplace. So what are the good communication would be? First, for the good communication, the language should be appropriate. For example, no jargon, no technical terms, written in the form or in the tone that the recipients can understand. And the second element of good communication is who should receive it. Say the message is only for the sales department, then the tone or the messages should contain a lot of sales department elements and not the others. And what is the medium or the right medium? Is it email or just an announcement, or the message through the messenger, the managers? So what are the right medium? And the information should be in good time for it to be used. It should not be too early or too late. And how about the bad communication? Okay, we just talked about the good communication. So let's see what are the bad communication look like. First, information is omitted or distorted by the sender. In other words, it's not a complete picture. The recipients even receive the information, he or she doesn't know how to take action based on the information. And about jargon or lack of clarity. So information is sometimes misunderstood due to the use of inappropriate jargon. Maybe the jargon under finance department, the meaning is not the same as in logistics department. So avoid the jargon in the messages, especially to the public. And the information should be presented using a right medium, as I show you in the left hand side. So on the right hand side, the medium is, if the medium is inappropriate, then it can be a disaster. And timing. Bad information is usually sent to the party related or relevant, which is considered to be too late. So as said, good information should be sent and received in good time. So let's see how the barriers to communication. There are some practical ways to dealing with barriers to communication. First, agree and confirm priorities and deadlines for the receipt of information. So how can we avoid the barriers of communication? When you ask the recipients to send you a confirmation after receiving such information. So it's the one way to deal with the barriers we just mentioned. And the second is spend sufficient time ensuring that the information is sent to all the right people. So please check your email address once again before you send it out, because once you press the send button, the email will be seen in, say, maybe in 10 million people's mailbox, which is not the intended which is not the intention to do it. So spend some sufficient time to send the message to the right person is another challenge, but it's a must-do challenge. And another way to overcome barriers to communication is to keep communication as simple as possible, avoiding jargon. So as said, jargon is only for those technical teams to communicate with each other. But for others, keep the message as simple as possible to avoid any unnecessary gas. And another way to overcome barriers of communication is to confirm that the information sent has been received and understood. So as said in another class, and next, avoid inconsistent verbal, non-verbal communication, as it tends to confuse the receivers. So sometimes the people would like to use the verbal core, sometimes you like to use the non-verbal way to do it. Please avoid, because inconsistency in the communication will have challenges or problems for the organization. So here is the last part of chapter 24. We will talk about the communication patterns. So what is communication patterns, or what are communication patterns? A communication pattern illustrates how individuals communicate with each other within a group or organization. There's a scholar called Leavitt. Leavitt identified 5 major patterns of communication. So namely, wheel, circle, all channel, chain, and Y. So you can see there are 5 types or 5 patterns of communication here. Well, circle, all channel, chain, and Y. And here, 5 types or 5 patterns, 5 patterns grouped into 2 main types. First, centralized network. The others is decentralized network. So maybe let's have a wild guess before moving forward. In our chart here, we have 5 patterns. Which do you think, which one or which items fall into centralized network, and which are falling into decentralized network? So you can think about it. But after my explanation, you can know it easily, because say here for will, all information has to gone through the central person in order to be sent to another party in this will pattern. And for circle, everyone can have at least 2 parties that he or she can contact in this case. And for all channel, everyone can discuss or talk to everyone in the organization. For chain, message has to gone through in this way or in another way. So there's no choice of the sender to choose who should be the right receiver in the chain communication pattern. And for Y, it's more or less the same, but we have two layers after the decision maker. So these 5 patterns can be grouped into 2 main types, which are centralized networks and decentralized networks. So under centralized networks, including chain, wheel, and Vi, because for these 3 types of patterns, or these 3 patterns, group members have to go through a central person in order to communicate with others. So imagine if there's a wheel, so there's a 4 person at each corner and a central person at the middle. So for all communication is on this way. For each individual, they have to communicate with the central person, and the central person will be the messengers by passing the information to another one. So in this case, the central person is the communicator, and it leads to unequal access to information within the group. Here is the one example of well, for decentralized networks, circle and all channel, these 2 patterns are grouped under decentralized networks. For information, the advantage of decentralized networks is the information flows freely between members without having to go through a central person. So all members are treated equal in this case, or quite fair, by communicating with other parties in the organization without the need of a central person. And what are the conclusions from these communication patterns that we studied? There's 5 patterns, and the conclusions are: first, for the whale, it is always the fastest way to reach a conclusion, making it ideal for problem solving. And for the circle, is the slowest. So if it is looking for efficiency, then the whale communication pattern is the best. And for the whale patterns, it is quite easy to find the whale pattern communication in a more authoritative management style organization. Say, for example, like a startup or a company or organization with a very strong leader, and he would like to receive all information and then to pass the information to others. So everyone has to report to him. In this case, it is the well pattern. If it is more complex, because the world is not just a simple world, for complex problems, the well communication pattern is not the best. In this case, we found the all channel is the most likely to reach the best decision. In other words, for complicated or complex problems, more parties will be involved, and the ideas from different persons are needed. It helps to reach the best decision. And if you talk about the level of satisfaction for individuals in an organization, it was the highest in the circle and quite high or fairly high in the all-channel communication pattern. But on the other hand, like in the centralized network, like the well, the chain and the Y-shaped pattern, the level of satisfaction is quite low. The centralized networks saw high job satisfaction for the central figure, but for the remaining members, they are feeling isolated and is not, and the members are not as happy as the central figure. So before ending this class, there's one example of or one communication model that I would like to share with you. It's called the Shannon-Weaver model. In this model, first of all, it is a commonly used model, and in this model, it helps to for people to understand the communication process, how it works. For any communication to be successful, the message has to be sent from the sender here to the recipient here. But in between, there are different medium, and noise can distort the message. One example is when communicating core values and mission. The 5 elements here would typically be, say, for information source, the sender is the board of directors here. He or she, or the board, would like to send the message to the recipients, like the company's core values and mission. And the transmitter here, the second layer, is to encode the message. Maybe it is performed by the middle managers. And sometimes the transmitter decide what words should be said, and what needs to be shown and designing the message. They sometimes will change a bit of the message. And next is, what are the communication channel? And if it is determined by the transmitter, the communication channel, say, can be internet or email, letters, meetings, whatever. But it depends who choose the communication channel. If it is the transmitter, then they can manipulate the effectiveness of the communication of the company message, like here, the core values and mission, to the recipient. So once the receiver receives the message, so they decode the message. Like they can put in the medium, like in the internet. So when you go into internet to read through the message, post is the company core values and missions. Then you display the page is the receiver, and destination is the recipient, like the employee, customers, and shareholders. So in this path, this is a one-way path, the communication model. And apart from these 5 different elements in the communication, there are noise can happen, and the noise can interfere with the message at any stage, and this can be termed a barrier to communication. Noise can distort the message or the communication, and we have some typical example of noise, like language difficulties. Say, for example, from English to foreign languages, then the meaning can be distorted as well. Information overload, it depends on, say, in this case, it's about the core values and missions. It depends whether the information in the core values will be overloaded or not. Sometimes simple is the best. And failure to receive, like if the message sent by email, maybe wrong email addresses, even putting in the internet, maybe the internet it doesn't work. So a lot of issues about the failure to send the message, and the recipients cannot receive the message. Another barrier here is the reluctance to receive the message, especially for 2 parties, the transmitter and the receiver. For transmitter, if they find the message is not good, or they don't think the message can help them, they will put it in the so-called low priority to send the message, or with a not effective way to communicate with the receiver. Then it is the challenge to pass the message to all related or all persons in an organization. And for the receiver, if the message, the core values and mission message from the organization is about to change their behavior and mindset, sometimes the receiver, they just ignore it. They don't put in their mind for the they don't put the message in their mind.